Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 246. Now I'm actually going to read it verbatim because, from here over here because the title is inordinately long. It's 61 pages, so it's on the short-ish side, but it's kind of dense and it's very much worth reading. Hypnotism, Personal Magnetism, Physical Culture, Health Breathing, and Magnetic Bathing. This is one part. By the way, link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. Can't forget that. Second and third links to my books, blogs. If you're interested in sort of the quack medicine, homeopathy, holistic hypnotism stuff, I've got a lot of that available now on these books, blogs, especially within the herbal category. I got to split that apart because herbals, of course, aren't the same as hypnotism and homeopathy. But it's a very good work by Zach Shedd at the dawn of the 20th century. It could be considered quack medicine after a fashion. Some of the things that it suggests are wrong. Like the idea of magnetizing someone so they can't feel pain it doesn't really work. What you're talking about is a placebo effect or suggestion. Hypnosis in the more maybe standard sense is useful. It can help with certain things. If someone has some psychosomatic trauma or whatever, you can use hypnosis to try to heal them. It can help with certain aspects of mental illness, anxiety, insomnia, certainly. Now, that being said, the idea of hypnotizing someone and sawing their leg off and it's all good is largely discarded these days. These days we use anesthetics or some other procedure that's maybe a little bit more effective. It only works on certain people, and therein lies the problem, because you might be amputating someone's leg and they're feeling everything, they just can't tell you because you've knocked them out with suggestion. Some of the things, though, here are quite interesting. For instance, those of you who follow the alkaline diet mythology won't like this booklet because it tells you that actually certain things need a bit more acid in your system. So I'm sure that'll probably come back into vogue at some point, like 20 years from now. This sort of dietary advice will probably be considered good. Lemon water is used frequently in this, which it's refreshing. There's nothing wrong with it. You get some like vitamin C and shit, so there's nothing bad about it. Some of the suggestions in here are, at least, they're innocuous, like that, or just like the power of positivity sort of thing, telling yourself you can do stuff. It's quite positive. I would say it's definitely worth a read, especially if you're interested in medical history, because this is the sort of booklet you get at the time where you've got a lot of little passages, especially. By the way, no shit, this book was formatted so much differently from so many other books. Like, you know how most books, they're taller than they are wide. This one flipped itself 90 degrees and was written horizontally. I'm not sure why this was chosen, but it looked more like those little books that you get. You know how you get those little compilations of comics, like the Garfield compilations, and they're a horizontal book, not a vertical one. It looked like that, and so I thought that was interesting. Some of the sentence structure was odd, and also there were a lot of errors in word usage. I've noticed something. A lot of the homeopathic works of this era, and this has nothing to do just with this book, but this is something to keep in mind, have an atrocious number of spelling errors where it looks like the person who wrote it or typed it up wasn't fully literate. That's entirely possible because literacy at the time was not as prevalent. And if it's a working class book, if it's geared towards your local working middle class community, probably the person that was writing it for that audience, literacy wasn't quite as important as if you were writing it for the intelligentsia. So you got to keep in mind the difference between those two traditions of literature up until the relatively modern era. Now the difference is you put flowery bullshit into the book if it's for the intelligentsia to distract them from your central point. That seems to be how scientific papers are written. It's like when they try to pass off stuff that's blatantly false as true, and they get it through the committee anyway because they used flowery, like physics-sounding language. They made it sound scientific. Well, it sounds plausible. We'll just greenlight it, put a check on it. Wonderful, wonderful PhD work. Again, though, link in the description to my edition of this book on Amazon. Second and third links to my books, blogs. The herbal category is where you want if you want this kind of literature. There are some hypnotism-related works in others. This one does have some how-to content, and some of it is cautionary. It cautions the reader to beware of mesmerists that say, well, I can make you rich and powerful through the power of hypnosis. This is an early cautionary look, actually, at some of these phenomena as well. So that's definitely very much to its credit. That's about all. Peace out.